Hello and welcome to the Stranger Things Deck Tech. This is post Dusk Road, the third expansion for Eternal. Um, I did a previous deck tech right before Omens, I believe, or after Omens. I don't remember. It's been a while. Uh, it was a 5 faction deck. It was a little clunky because there wasn't exactly support for it yet. So we didn't get things like Triumphant Stranger or Reunited. But now we have a lot more support, and as you can see, we're a little diversified in our colors. There's a lot more support for us to use removal and use tutoring for cards, and we'll just jump right into it. As you can see, statistics are here. If you want to skip right to the games, click on the pack on the left. So let's get started. First up, we're going to just talk really quick about power fixing. We run 2 Seek powers for the handful of sigils that we run. Horus Trevor, because 1 Stranger, so we get Stranger procs off him. And it's a 1/1 for 1. It's not the greatest, but whatever. We don't need power requirements for it. And we can also fix ourselves with it for factions. We run 1 of each except for the Huru banner, because our Huru, we don't really need specifically Primal and Justice at the exact same time. All the other combinations are usually what we need. So we run 1 of each of those. And then we run 4 Diplomatic Seals. That's our power fixing. Now let's move on to spells. We don't run a whole lot of spells. We run 4 copies of Reunite to tutor out our strangers. We run 3 copies of Dark Return, simple and cheap recursion. Keeps things easy for us to keep bringing back our threats after they've been removed. And if we don't have any way to bring them back in the near time future, and we want to keep our board safe, we can cast Stand Together, which buffs the entire party and then also gives them an Aegis, which is extremely helpful in a lot of situations. The last 2 spells we run are Slay, which is an unconditional removal spell, very easy to cast. I've been able to cast it multiple times, very easy in this deck. We have 4 copies of Copperhel's Blessing, which might seem like a lot, but it's essentially a time walk or an extra turn over your opponent. If they just swing in and you can't defend properly, you right before damage is dealt, you cast this and you get in and you swing back hard. That's the most, with that, or you use that to protect your board after they try to ambush something in or cast a fast spell. So that will just ruin your day. It's only got a Justice requirement, so I feel like it's worth running. It's a pretty good card in my experience. Onto the units, we run 3 Clever Strangers. It's 4 mana 2/2, not too excited to run a 4 mana 2/2. But it has Warp, so we can cast it from the top of our deck, which adds another card to our hand, essentially. And then our Strangers have Warp. The majority, like almost every single card every single unit in our deck is a Stranger, with the exception of, I think, 1 card. And actually 2 cards, but it essentially makes it so that every now and then we have an extra card in hand. And it's really helpful, especially to see what you're coming up next for Stranger. So if you want to plan out your power, you can do so accordingly. We have a Determined Stranger. It's technically a 3/3 that buffs everyone by 1. I think usually this guy gets silenced a lot, so it'll usually be a 2/2. But it's a good way to bait out silences as well. It's a fine card. Again, one faction requirement, so it's easy to cast. 2 Hair Trigger Strangers, which make blocking real pain once our guys are buffed up. So people have to plan out what they're going to get rid of, or they're going to get rid of this guy. Having 2 of them is fine in the deck. It's just a 2/2 for 2. Triumphant Stranger is the one that will turn games around. I guarantee it. Every single time I've had this guy on the field, he's done wonders for me. You're not guaranteed to get the random Stranger since it's at the start of your turn and not the end of your turn. But sometimes you can get really good cards, and other times you can get garbage cards, such as the 2/2 Faction Fixers that are just a 2/2 for 2. Or you can get something that's like a huge swing. You can get another Triumphant Stranger, I believe. Plus, it gets bigger with the more strangers you have, so that's pretty cool. Then we have Soaring Stranger, 3 of them. They give all strangers flying. This will close out a game so fast if they can't deal with flyers. I used to run 2 of these, then I changed it to 3 once I realized there was a lot more flyer decks than I anticipated out there. So that's why we're running 3 of them. Again, one faction requirement, pretty easy to cast, and then we can also tutor up early on if we want to set up an early win or early defenses against flyers. All right. I'm going to talk about these two cards at the exact same time, the Grim Stranger and the Ferocious Stranger. The Grim Stranger procs whenever it has Killer or whenever it attacks, or any stranger, I suppose, with those abilities attack or do any sort of thing. So he deals that much damage. With Ferocious Stranger, it's double that damage. So, and then Bereaved Stranger, which I will show you in just a moment, gives your strangers lifelink. So that damage, not lifelink, sorry, lifesteal, can sap life from your opponent insanely fast, especially when you have a large board. And this is kind of why we still run Horse Traver, because he can also proc Grim Stranger if we really need it, because it also clears out an Aegis on the enemy. Again, and then Ferocious Stranger is another like big game ender. 6 mana 4/4 strangers deal double damage, which is insane. With Quick Draw, it's also Ferocious Stranger becomes an 8/4 with Quick Draw essentially. The last of our units will be the Bereaved Stranger, which I said before. It's a 5 mana 4/4 with lifesteal on all strangers. It's pretty good. Force one strangers, since we're a 5 faction deck, we're likely to have at least 3 factions by turn 3. So it's either at worst it's a 1/1, but I don't see that ever happening. So, and at best it's a 5/5 just by itself, and that's pretty good for just 3 mana, no faction requirement. Stone Shaker is not a stranger, but it's worth running because it reduces the costs of all the units in the deck by 1. I feel like it's worth it. I wish there was another card I could run. I haven't encountered one that I have been able to replace and feel like it does the same thing, or even better, something better. But it lowers things like Bereaved Stranger down to 4, it lowers Triumphant Stranger down to 4. It just makes sometimes casting them a lot easier, especially when you're not getting the power you need. And Spirit Resistance is kind of just like the game ender, or it's just like the last resort, where it's your opponent has to deal with this, or they need to get out. Yeah, that's just how it is. The power distribution is just 2 Fire Sigils, 2 Time Sigils, 3 Justice Sigils, 2 Primal Sigils, and 3 Shadow Sigils. You can swap this around as much as you want when you make your own edits. This is just what works for me. And that'll be it. So click on the back if you want to skip right to the games. And then here's the statistics. Please give me any feedback that you may have, or tell me of your own stranger decks that seem to be working out for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate it a lot. Thank you.